नीरज सर जॉइन करी ना बोधे आसी कथा तांकर आस्ते संदीप बाबू जॉइन कर देबे। संदीप बाबू अच्छा लाइन रे कि संदीप बाबू
हाँ मो लाइन रे अछि
अच्छा से नीरज सर जॉइन करलेनी कि नीरज धनंजय जोशी सर
हाँ से जॉइन कर सरलानी आपन मनकर जनकर कार सरले मु तंको ऐड करू छी संग
ना ही शुड स्टार्ट ना यू स्टार्ट हां यू जॉइन स्टार्ट
हम चेयरमैन स्टार्ट करियो
हां
सर स्टार्ट करो।
Tell the chairman to unmute his video, unmute his yeah. Not audible.
शक्ति सर वॉइस आसुनी अनम्यूट करंतु वीडियो। A very warm good evening, good morning to all the respected dignitaries and participants assembled on this digital platform. I, CMA Mukesh Chaube, Vice Chairman and Chairman PD Committee of ICAI Bhubaneswar Chapter, feel privileged to introduce the guest resource person on today's webinar on intricacies of cost records and cost audit. Let's learn, de-learn and relearn with all agility to contribute in nation building. Today's resource person on the occasion is CMA Asim Kumar Mukhopadhyay sir. CMA Asim Kumar Mukhopadhyay sir is a CMA, CA and CS. Over 37 years of industrial experience in different manufacturing industries, automotive, steel, refractories, etc. in various capacities. Presently, he is Vice President and Head Business Finance Tata Motor Group. He has been actively engaged with the Cost Accountant Institute for past 3 decades. He was past chairman of EIRC in the year 1997-98. During his 37 years of journey, he has received many prestigious awards such as Doctor of Excellence, Honoris Causa by the Confederation of International Accreditation Commission, CIAC Global in partnership with University of Entrepreneurship and Technology, USA, for the excellence in field of financial management in 2019. Best CFO Award 2017 of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in Engineering and Capital Goods sector. Thank you, sir, for being a resource person on today's occasion. Now comes to CMA Neeraj Dhananjay Joshi, sir. CMA Joshi, sir, is a fellow member of our institute. He is second rank holder of University of Pune in MBA examination, a certified SAP consultant for FICO models from SAP and AG, Germany. He is holding presently Central Council member of the Institute of Cost Accounting of India for the term 2019-23 and chairman of Cost Accounting Standard Board of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He is presently also chairman of Western India Regional Council of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India for the year 2019-20. He is practicing CMA with over 15 years of post-qualification experience and partner in Dhananjay V. Joshi and Associates, a practicing cost accountants firm. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation to be part of our this platform. And now I come to CMA Niranjan Mishra, sir. He is well-known face of CMA fraternity. CMA Niranjan Mishra, sir, is a fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and senior partner of MS Niran and Co. Cost Accountants Bhubaneswar. He is also corporate trainer in cost records and cost audit. He is an associate member of the Institute of Surveyors and Loss Assessors and Valuers approved by the Central Board of Direct Taxes. Presently, he is the Central Council member of the Institute for the term 2019-23 and chairman of India Action Committee. We can say with proud, under his dynamic leadership in Taxation Committee and relentless effort, our Premier Institute has created a separate identity, especially on taxation issues, which was invisible earlier. Further, under his visionary leadership as chairman RC and chapter coordination committee, regional council and chapter has been motivated and inspired to carry on different activities for giving further new heights to our mother profession. It is pertinent to say that he is mentor guide for me and all the members of managing committee of Bhubaneswar chapter. Whenever we want any support and guidance, he always come forward and guide us. Thank you, sir, for your this support. I request our chairman, CMA Satyendra Singh, sir, to address his delivering. Sakti, sir, please continue. Sakti, sir.
Mukesh ji, start with the introduction.
Sir.
Of other purpose. You start with other because
Okay.
there is some problem in the internet. Sakti sir.
Okay, Sandeep Babu, please delete Sakti sir and add our next participant, Lalit Mr. sir.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
I request all the chairmen of the different chapters at Odisha and secretary of Bhubaneswar chapter for self-introduction and sharing few words within 1 to 2 minutes time, please. Sandeep Babu. I request all the participants to kindly bear because this is the first time we are conducting such type of webinar. So I request to please bear with the technical issues because this is also a learning platform for all of us. And in a due time, we will be also rectifying all these issues. Mr. Sir, I think you start. Sir, you start the. They will, sir, join after you. You just start, sir. We will be adding. I'm coordinating with all of them.
Good morning. It's a pleasure for the strategy members and our members of the Odisha state, county members, that the Bhubaneswar chapter has taken the lead with the leadership of Satyendra Singh, chairman, and CMA Mukesh Chobeji, chairman, vice chairman, PD committee chairman, to take the initiative to start the online seminar in this OA version for the Odisha members, Odisha CMA members. I am welcoming the great resource person on the occasion and the subject expert on the cost audit, CMA N. Joshi, Niran Joshi ji. He has a lot of exposure in the cost audit, so also the cost audit in the ERP environment. He's one of the renowned name in the CMA fraternity. Dear Joshi ji, so with your experience, I hope the cost accounting fraternity of Odisha will get a lot of exposure in the cost audit. CMA Asim Mukhopadhyay ji, in his absentia, he is another icon in the profession. He is presently leading the Tata Motors and holding the key position, lot of exposure. So he will deliberate on the industry expectations on the cost audit, so that the cost accounting fraternity, those are in the industry or those are working in the industry or those are with the profession, particularly cost accountants, can get some input to apply in the respective workstation. Welcome to the captains of our Odisha chapters. CMA Lalit Kumar Mishra, Chairman Kotak Jagatsinghpur Kendrapada chapter. CMA Praveen Nigam sir, Chairman Raugla chapter. CMA Antarjami Acharya sir, Culture Angul chapter, CMA Khirodanda sir, Chairman Sambalpur chapter, and CMA Prasanth Kumar Panik sir, Chairman South Odisha chapter. So the topic has been decided in a juncture where the cost records has been maintained by the organizations, and most of the companies are eager to complete their audit so that they can file the return with the statute. It should be trying to extend the date of filing and extend the date of custody, but till now we have not got any notification from the government of Odisha or sorry, government of India. That's why it is a high time so that how will do the audit in the e-environment? How will do the work or audit work sitting at home so that they should complete the cost records sitting at home or sitting at office workplace so that they should not face any hassles while complying the statute. Second thing, this webinar, this seminar, not webinar, this seminar was really planned on 21st March 2020 to be conducted by the Bhubaneswar chapter, but due to this pandemic COVID-19, we are helpless, and at the last moment we have cancelled the program. And at the same time, we have also invited CMA Neeraj Joshi sir, CMA Asim Mukhopadhyay sir, and the CMA Somnath Mukherjee sir. But due to some technical problems, CMA Somnath Mukherjee could not join this webinar. But we are happy that our original speaker, who are supposed to attend on 21st March, are with us, and with their expertise and exposure in the field. Neeraj Joshi sir from the packaging angle, and Asim Mukhopadhyay sir from the industry angle. I think they will fulfill the need of our CMA members, those are working in industry, and those are also in practice. So due to this technical fault, we started late. So without going for more formality, I request our resource person, CMA Neeraj Joshi sir, to start the deliberation. And Asim Mukhopadhyay sir will join after few time. So let Neeraj Joshi sir start the deliberation. And time will include our Odisha chapters captains. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome to CMA Neeraj Dhananjay Joshi sir. I request CMA Neeraj Joshi sir to present his part towards in the for the intricacies on cost or records and cost audit. Neeraj Joshi sir, Neeraj Joshi sir, are you available? Neeraj Joshi sir, Sandeep Babu, Sandeep Babu, welcome Neeraj Joshi sir. Is it audible sir? Joshi sir, is it audible?
अभी मैं बोल रहा
Yeah
हूँ
sir, it
आपको
is
सुनाई
audible now. जी 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 अभी सुनाई दे रहा है.
मैंने माइक अनम्यूट किया हुआ है
हाँ नहीं
अभी
अभी
आपको
अभी
सुनाई दे रहा है
अनम्यूट होगा, अनम्यूट रहेगा सर. जी जी
नहीं
जी
मगर वो इससे थ्रू
अभी
नहीं
सुनाई दे रहा है.
थ्रू माय प्रेजेंटेशन
The participants are नहीं, it is audible.
आई नो बट सी द
It is audible sir to the participant. It is audible to the participants also.
मुझे सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है इफ आई एम एबल टू स्पीक एंड यू आर एबल टू लिसन देन फाइन आई डू द प्रेजेंटेशन बट आई एम नॉट एबल टू लिसन टू एनीवन एल्स
No, other are sir muted. Other
So
all
तो कुछ
participants
problem
are
नहीं आना
muted.
चाहिए because everything is
नहीं नहीं
connected. If I
नहीं.
am able to hear, then I
All
am able to.
participants
You
are
are able to
muted.
hear me, then I should be able to hear others also.
Only three people you can hear, sir. Mishra sir, me, and
Okay,
yourself.
okay, okay, fine, fine.
The person you are able to see on the screen, they can only you can listen
Then
them. Otherwise,
it's okay. If my voice is coming through, then no problem. I can do the presentation.
no sir,
No worries.
your voice is now audible to all participants.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So sir, you can start your presentation. Uh, Sorry to all participants for the disturbance. I request CMA Neeraj Dhananjay Joshi sir to start his presentation. Thank you for participants for bearing with us. Sir, you can start.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you are able to listen to me and able to hear me properly also. So at the first, let me congratulate the Bhubaneswar chapter and all the chapters in state of Odisha for arranging this seminar through Webit on intricacies of cost records and cost audit. So this is a very innovative step that is being taken by all the chapters in state of Odisha and ably led by Bhubaneswar chapter. And also my special thanks to my very dear colleague in the council, CMA Niranjan Mishra sir, for inviting me to address on this topic. Actually, in fact, this kind of seminar was planned earlier. Also, it was kept on getting postponed, and because of COVID, then we cannot have it on a personal level, that on a physical level. But every opportunity or every threat, rather, gives you an opportunity. And this COVID has come out with this opportunity where we are able to meet each other on this virtual platform, so that even more and more people can join. So today's deliberations that I would do, I would be having say around 1 hour's time to have deliberations. So I will not be going into details of too much details in the topics, but rather I would cover the major aspects of various topics that I have chosen for today's CE or today's seminar. The reason being, all of you who are joining are already cost accountants, members of the institute, and you are many of you would be much senior to me also, both in terms of age, experience, and their designations and knowledge. So what I would be doing is I would try to share whatever little knowledge I have over a few years of my career as a practitioner in the domain of cost and management accounting. So I would just touch upon the topics which I feel are critical, where we all should focus, and then, if time permits, I would just briefly touch upon the advisories that the Institute has recently issued, which are in the domain of cost audit. One is on treatment on cost accounting in the costing. Second is carrying audit in the E mode. And thirdly, the recent advisory of the disclosures that has been issued by the technical set. So let's move ahead with the presentation. So in the flow of session, I would first touch upon the cost audit, some important legal provisions. Then I will go to cost audit practical approach. So what are the key rules that or key areas that we should look in the cost audit assignment, be it from the company side or vendors. Then I would just touch upon the cost audit in SAP environment. Cost audit in SAP environment is a topic in itself. So maybe it's a separate discussion topic, but definitely I would like to give some hints to the members present here that how this can be done. Then a little on impact of Ind AS on costing and cost audit. I am also chairman of the Cost Accounting Standards Board. So I'm happy to inform you that Cost Accounting Standards Board and technical cell of the institute, they have jointly taken up this task of assessing the impact of Ind AS on costing. Uh, See, cost accounting standards and principles were set when the Ind AS was not introduced. Now, Ind AS has brought in certain major changes in principles of accounting. So the question was whether these principles of accounting be adopted in costing as it is or not. So the first round of discussion within the technical set has been completed. Very soon we will take it to the cost accounting standard board and the draft will be made available to the public at large for their comments and their suggestions. So we are already into this process. So when I'm dealing with impact on index, I'm touching upon very few topics which I feel are critical and which deserves some kind of a consideration from the members. Some recent developments in the cost audit mechanism, and then the recent advisory by the institute. So that's going to be flow of my session today. So let's begin with cost audit important provisions. So the most important provision in relation to the entire mechanism of cost audit was brought in by the Companies Act 2013 in form of Section 230. Now, Section 2 deals with the definitions, and 13 specifically is the definition of books of accounts. So, for the first time, cost records have formed part of the definition of books of accounts. So, now there is a very strong legal status that is awarded to the cost records. So, if any company, whatever provisions are relating to the books of accounts of the company, they automatically apply to the cost records of the company because cost records are now part of books of accounts. So, this is one of the uh, good developments as far as this entire mechanism is concerned. Then comes the section 148.5. We all know that section 148 deals with the applicability of maintenance of cost record and cost audit. I will not be going into details of every provision under the Companies Act, or maybe the entire of section 148 or the chapter 10 rules which related to us, or the cost accounting records and report rules also. But I would be touching upon, as I said, only the critical parts which I feel are important for us to deliberate. So section 148.5 basically deals with what it says, that the qualifications, disqualifications, rights, duties, and obligations applicable to auditors under this chapter, that's chapter 10, shall, so far as may be applicable, apply to cost auditor appointed under this section. So, though there are no separate qualifications, disqualifications, right, duties, obligations that are given in the company's cost accounting records and audit rules, what section 148.5 says, that whatever is given regarding these things in the Companies Act shall apply to cost auditors also. So, whatever is applicable to the financial auditors or the secretary auditors is applicable to the cost auditors also. Now, there is a specific reason why I have brought out 148.5. If you read it carefully, it talks only about qualifications, disqualifications, right, duties, and obligations. If you have studied chapter 10 of the Companies Act, which starts with section 139 and goes up to section 148 and beyond, it deals, every section deals with each of these items. So there is a separate section on qualification, disqualification, one on rights, duties, and obligations. And there is a separate section which deals with appointment of auditors and inter-rotation of the auditors. And because 148.5 does not mention about the appointment, auditor, rotation of the auditors, the provisions of those sections, they do not apply to the cost audit mechanism per se. So basically, 139 does not apply to cost auditors, which deals with appointment of auditors and rotation of auditors. So procedure for appointment of auditors is separately given in the cost accounting record rules to some extent, and it does not cover rotation of auditors. So there is always a question whether the rotation of auditors is applicable to the cost auditors. So technical or legal answer is no. Now there are companies which are following the practice of rotation of cost auditors, and which in turn is a good practice for the PSUs or the public companies to have. But legally speaking, it is not required for a company to go for rotation in terms of cost audit appointment. That is the reason I have brought out this particular section. just to make that legal position clear, because that's the question in mind of many of the cost auditors and also in minds of the company, that what is the legal backing. Now, the other one important part of 148 is 148.3, which again is introduced by Section 2 by Companies Act 2013, is the appointment and remuneration. Now, earlier, the appointment and remuneration of the cost auditor both was fixed by Board of Directors. The 2013 Companies Act brought in a change which says that the appointment is to be done by Board of Directors, the remuneration is to be fixed by Board of Directors, but remuneration is to be ratified by the AGM. Now, I understand that it is only a ratification, but we should also appreciate that this has given a lot of exposure to the cost audit mechanism per se. Earlier to this provision, the general shareholders of the company, they were absolutely not even aware that there exists a mechanism called as cost audit. But with this provision, at least there is an agenda item in every annual general meeting to ratify the remuneration of the cost auditors. And now the shareholders, they are aware at least about the mechanism. Though they are not aware about the exact work that we perform, uh, if they are interested, they can get themselves acquainted. But like financial audit report, like company secretary audit report, our report is not in a public domain. So they are not aware about the work that is involved in cost audit process or the report of cost auditor. But at least they are informed now that there is a person, there is a profession, which is cost accountants, and who are carrying out cost audit for their respective companies. Now, there is a flip side to this story. Not even a flip side, but I should say there is a technical issue, which, if you ask me personally, I would not like to pursue. If, but I would just like to share it with you because this is a gathering of a professional. So we should have that kind of an approach where we can discuss things open. Suppose I am shareholder of a company and agenda item of appointment of remuneration ratification of cost auditors come as an agenda item. Now, I as a shareholder, which also in turn I'm a part owner of the company, have complete right to understand about the payment that I'm making for. So my technical question for deliberation of all of you, just give the thought that can a shareholder ask for copy of a cost audit report? Because he can say that, okay, fine, I'm ratifying the remuneration, but then I should understand what I'm ratifying. If you are proposing fees of say 5 lakhs rupees to the cost auditor or say 10 lakhs rupees to the cost auditors, I should understand why I'm paying him 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs. Why it should not be 50,000 or why it should not be 50 lakhs. What is the quantum? What is the work that is performing for which a fee I'm going to ratify? So if a shareholder tomorrow asks for the details of the work that is done by the cost auditor, whether the company is legally bound to provide that or not. Now, as I said, personally, in my opinion, I should, or we as a fraternity should not explore this option because this will go deadly against us. And we all know that there is already an industry lobby that is working, saying that the information is very secret and there are issues. So if this kind of things are pursued by any of our members, that can be harmful to the process or the profession per se. So I'm just throwing out this question for your deliberation and for your thought, but I personally would not recommend to go in this direction unless the time comes. Correct. So this is importance of section 148.3. First time introduction of cost auditing standards. I will not much deliberate on cost auditing standards because again it's a separate topic in itself. But the Companies Act 2013 for the first time has introduced cost auditing standards. With that, the cost accounting standard reference has been removed from the Companies Act and cost accounting record rules also. But not to fear. It does not mean that cost accounting standards have lost their legal status. Because if you go to the cost auditing standard 103 specifically refers that the records are to be compiled in line with cost accounting standards and GACA. So indirect reference of cost accounting standards is definitely there. But again, I can definitely share with you that as a council, as a chairman of CASB, I'm not really happy with the approach that the ministry has taken of removing cost accounting standards. If you see all the three or other two professional bodies, the auditing standards is a subject matter of the council internally. The Companies Act has not diverged into the auditing standards. They have rather confined themselves to the secretarial standards and accounting standards. So, in my opinion, we have to have a representation with the NCA. I have already discussed this issue in CA's big meeting where MCA representatives are also there. That we have to, they also have to support us. When we are saying that cost auditing standards, they generally apply to the audit process and not how the records are compiled. So how the audit process is to be carried out or whether the auditor has done it correctly or not should be an internal matter of the institute, which again forms purview under the purview of the quality review board. So we will be insisting that the government should follow a standard process or a practice in all the professions, and they should recognize cost accounting standards in Companies Act and cost auditing standards be left to the institute to implement and to monitor the performance or the quality of audit that is being conducted. But as of now, auditing standards are recognized in the Companies Act, and through them, cost accounting standards are also recognized. I have already covered this point. Now, since we are on the topic of section 148, and as I said, I will be dealing only in few critical issues or few important points. The pertinent question as on date is about the extension to the submission of cost audit. Correct? We all know that because of COVID, there is restriction on movement, there is restriction of carrying out of work. Now, there are two parts to this question. One is December. So the companies who ended their financial year on 31st December 2019, okay, they had to submit their cost audit report as per the existing rules in 180 days, which would fall upon around 28th of June 2020. So maybe tomorrow. So what is the situation of extension that is available to the companies? Now, last year, there was an amendment to the company's cost accounting records and audit rules, CCRAR as we call them fondly, which has said that if there is an extension given to the AGM of the company, then there is an automatic extension to the filing of Form CRA4 till the date of the AGM extension. So as of date, all the companies which were supposed to carry out, or the companies which year ended on December, had got an extension to carry out an AGM till 30th of September. So there is an automatic extension to filing of Form CRA4 till 30th of September. But this extension, technically speaking, applies only to the filing of Form CRA4. It does not apply by default to the process of conducting of cost audit, that is compilation of cost records, adoption of annexures of cost audit report, annexures to the cost audit report by the board, and submission of cost audit report by the auditor to the board. So for that, still there is a cap of 180 days only. So that extension has not yet come. Now this point was discussed with MCA last time also when this specific provision was inserted in the record rules, that we had appealed to them that this is a provision which is defunct in its nature itself, because no company would complete the cost audit, take a report in June, and then wait till 30th of September just because there is an extension to file Form CRA4. So this extension is a useless extension to my mind. I should be very blunt on this, because these are some lacunas that we need to rectify. This extension is only to CRA4 because it refers to a particular subsection of section 148. Correct? So it should refer to some other subsections of section 148, which would apply to the entire process. So if you remember last time, when because of GST related XBRL issues, there was an extension given, MCA had come out with a notification which said that the extension given applies to the entire process of cost audit. And we are expecting a similar kind of notification from MCA in this situation also. Our president has already written it to the MCA maybe around 2 months back that this extension needs to be given. We are continuously following up with them, the cost audit branch also, to come out with that notification which says that the extension applies to the entire process. So I don't know now. We are trying from our level best, but we are just handicapped by the decisions of the MCA and the CA. So that is related to the extension of cost audit as a process. Then another important section of the Companies Act, which we should all remember, is qualifications and disqualifications. Now, the importance of this section is that it refers to section 144, which is a first time introduction in the Companies Act. Now, section 144 deals with list of prohibited services. So this is for the first time that the Companies Act has introduced list of prohibited services. So if a person is carrying out any of the audits for a particular entity, for a particular company, he is prohibited from providing the following services. Now, importance of this is mainly one, that we all are professionals, so we have to follow the professional ethics and the rules and the Companies Act provisions. And if we are doing cost audit, then we should not do all of these services. Now, there are some companies which are issuing tenders in which a cost audit tender per se, the work to be performed involves some of the areas which are mentioned here, correct? Like management services. The kind of reports that they are asking from the cost auditors, they fall in the domain of management services. So I personally request all the members, because we are the professionals and it is our duty to uphold the professional dignity. We should be united on that front. If a company is asking you something beyond the scope of cost audit, we as a community, we as a united front should say that we will not respond to it. If 10 people stop responding and 2 people respond, then that unity is broken. And that is precisely what is happening in case of our profession. That when issues of professional integrity, when issues of professional interest come, we are not united. People are responding to the tenders which are asking cost auditors to give 50 types of reports. Whatever is under the sun, under the management consulting, should be part of cost audit assignment. That cannot be done because it is prohibited under section 144, and we should form up the courage to tell the companies that. I am also a member of the disciplinary committee of the institute, and I can assure you that there are cases which are filed against the cost auditors who are doing this. The cases are there in disciplinary committee and they will get decided. So we as responsible professionals have to take all these factors into mind. That is the importance of section 144. That is why I wanted to touch upon this topic. Because when I look into social media, I find that there are people who are demanding action from the institute, but the institute has already taken action. The cases are there, but a legal process, disciplinary mechanism is a legal process. It takes its own time to get conclusion. Okay, we are appealing to the government. There is already a high level committee formed by the government to speed up the process of this mechanism, but institute has taken action. That's what I want to assure you, that we are aware of this situation and we are taking action. Now I move to the cost audit practical approach. So based on my experience, of course, everybody would be able to relate to it, or they may be even able to add it or suggest some better ways to do. But this is what I understand when I approach a cost audit assignment. This is the things that I perceive are important. So whenever we are approaching any cost audit assignment, what is the most important is audited financial TB and analysis of the notes of account. Now, when I'm saying that audited financials and TB are critical, they are not technically or legally required. If you go through the entire Companies Act and Section 148 in particular and the CCRAR, it nowhere says that the cost statement should be based on the audited financial statements. So, technically speaking, if a company doesn't carry out financial audit, but they give you some kind of financial record and cost record, which is approved and authenticated by the management, as a cost auditor, you can very well complete the cost audit and make a disclosure to that extent. I, in practice, have already done this in some cases. Many times, what happens that the company's audit sometimes gets extended and they decide that the audit of financial record and cost audit report, both reports will go for the approval to the board at the same time. In that case, we have taken a stand that it is accepted, it is not legally prohibited. Only thing, a disclosure needs to be given in the cost audit report, which clearly brings out this fact that the cost audit is based on the financial record made available as certified by the management, rather than saying audited financial statements. But as far as a common practice goes, we generally start with audited financial TB. What is more important, and specifically in case of Ind AS, is a very detailed analysis of notes to the accounts. Notes to the accounts or disclosures, they give lot of inside information on how accounts are prepared, and that also gives us some feelers on how we should treat a particular item that appears either on expense or revenue side in our cost records, whether it should be treated as abnormal, whether it is related to previous period, whether it is related to the future cost currently booked. So these things are there in the notes of accounts. So we as practitioners, we as persons in costing domain also have to analyze the notes of accounts very closely. Next is unit-wise P&L and trial balance. See, we all know that though the report is submitted as company level, it is mandatory to have unit level cost records compiled. That is the requirement of CCRAR. And hence we require unit level P&L and TB. It is not a requirement of financial audit to have unit level TB and balance sheet. They prefer or they base it on segment level reporting, but segment need not necessarily mean unit, correct? But for cost record purpose, we have to insist that we require unit level P&L and TB. Now, from my personal experience, you might not have had this experience. What I found out that when a company setup is huge, correct, they have say 10 different units and head office. I have found out in many cases that the unit level trial balance summation does not match with company level trial balance. This happens particularly if they have some central finance department. So at the time of financial audit, only head office is important, and they are passing some closing entries or some audit adjustment entries at HO level, which are not percolated or incorporated at the unit level trial balance. So whenever you are dealing with a situation when there are multiple units that you are going to handle, make sure that you get unit level trial balance, you add it up and tally it with the company level trial balance. If there are differences, stop. Get the differences reconciled. Till the time you have a reconciled unit level trial balance, don't start the work. Otherwise, you will ending up doing double, triple the work. And these mainly are related to the elimination entries, index adjustment entries that happen. Unit-wise quantity record is again a most critical factor. Quantity record, to my mind, is the crux of the matter as far as the cost records or any cost statement for that matter. Forget about cost one. Any cost statement, quantity forms the basis of it. Because as cost accountants, as cost and management accountants, we are dealing not only with the numbers or the value, but we are also concerned about the price, the rate. Unless you know the rate, the comparative figures have no meaning. And that is the biggest lacuna in the existing financial accounting system. They have forgotten about the quantities. Earlier, if you all remember, when I was studying, many of you were working at that time, when I was studying, the earlier financial record had to have disclosures regarding the quantity. Now, between the years, they have left the quantities altogether. They are only focusing on value. But value really doesn't give you any insight. The two comparable value figures may have completely different rate worked out for them. And I, in my practical experience, have found out this, particularly in case of stock valuation. There are many mistakes in the audited financial accounts stock valuation. The companies had to change the stock valuation report accepting qualifications in cost of report. That is the level of inaccuracy in the financial records. That's why we have to insist on unit level quantity record, and unit level quantity reconciliation also becomes very, very critical. GST returns and its compilation and using as cross check for quantity record. We all know that earlier we used to tally quantity manufactured with excise manufactured quantity figure. So there was a cross check available. With the abolition of excise and introduction of GST, the control on production quantity as a control cross-check mechanism has been lost. But now we have to be intelligent. GST gives you record of all outward transfer. So from the cost records, we have to arrive at what are the outward movement of the goods and tally it with the GST records. So now GST records is the base at which we have to have a cross-check of the quantities that we are taking at unit level. Quantity reconciliation I already touched upon. So basically opening plus closing, less production, less sales or less dispatches for that matter should equal to zero. And this should be ensured at item level because cost records are to be maintained for item level. It's not group product group level, 4-digit CETA code level, no. Presentation is at 8-digit CETA code level, but the cost record has to be maintained for every item or every service or every activity that is being done by the company. So this quantity reconciliation has to be at that level. Then only correct cost records, some meaningful analysis from the cost records can be achieved. GST reconciliation is part and parcel of the entire mechanism. I will not go into it. Inter-unit transfer CS4, again a separate topic in itself, but we do have to give consideration to the inter-unit transfers also. Now, the problem with the GST mechanism is that since for the within the same state transfer, now no separate GST record is available. I don't have to pay GST duty if it's transferred within the same state. Correct. But there can be two units lying in the same state. I come from state of Maharashtra. So there can be a company having one unit in Mumbai, one unit in Pune. If they have inter-unit transfers, those movements will not get captured in the GST return for the state of Maharashtra. Because GST returns are for the states. They are not for the units. Earlier, the excise returns used to be for the units. So a precise information of inter-unit transfer backed up by some statutory form was available. Now that is not the case. So we have to rely upon companies' internal records. So our responsibility has increased. We have to have a very close audit. The companies also have to have very close, goodly well monitored internal control systems to say that the quantity record that is getting recorded and presented to the auditors is accurate. So that's why the importance of internet transfer, particularly in case of GST mechanisms, because there is no cross tell. Unit-wise, product-wise cost statements already informed. The critical components for any costing exercise are generally the bill of material, routing, standard cost, which form the basis of allocation of cost or basis of apportionment of cost or basis of collecting cost to a particular cost object. So these are the technical informations we should be aware of it. We should be studying it when we are visiting any company for the cost audit purpose. So generally, when I start a cost audit assignment, if a new company comes to me, then I had to spend at least 4 to 5 days understanding only the operations of the company. I will not even go in the finance department. 4 to 5 days I will spend on the floor. I will go and meet every department head, which is operation department, which is the line function. Try to understand them from how things are done. That is how you approach a costing assignment. It can be any costing assignment. You have to spend maximum time with the operations. Then only you can do correct costing. Costing cannot be done sitting in the finance department. It has to be done visiting the shop. So you need to be very well aware of how the bill of material, how many levels of bomb are there, whether system is capable of handling bomb validation, what routing is there, what kind of processes are there, which are processes are the bottlenecks, how the routing is configured. There are two types of defining routing. One is on the basis of throughput and other is basis of total time. So for example, if you consider a simple case of assembly, there are three processes, okay, three stages of assembly, 5 minutes, correct? So routing can be defined as 15 minutes or routing can be defined as 5 minutes also for the same product. The definition of routing totally depends on how production planning wants to look at it. Whether they want to look at a throughput of 5 minutes, that for after every 5 minutes, one product comes out. That's the throughput they're talking about. Or do they want to look at the entire time that for one product I require 15 minutes? So if you come out with if you get routing data, try and understand that how the routing is defined, what is the philosophy of the company behind it. So you should be very well versed with the technical information that company is providing. Functional allocation, right in our alley. We all are experts in doing this. We are doing it as theory and also in practice, so I will not go into that. Use of ERP in cost split. I am going to touch upon this topic, so I will not speak about it. Various kind of management certifications are required. For example, though you are aware of how to interpret BOM and routing, the accuracy of the same cannot be ensured by us as a cost auditors because that's not our role, that's not our job. So we have to rely upon management certification in that case. Whether a particular process requires 10 minutes or 15 minutes can be examined by us by doing time and motion study, but that is not the level at which the cost auditors can go. considering the scope of the assignment. So we rely upon the management certification in that case. So we have to acquire various kind of management certifications, and then comes the step of preparation of cost audit report, disclosures in cost audit report, and presentation to the cost audit report. So presentation to the report to the management is the most critical part. That is where we can actually show the management that what is the outcome of the cost audit process as such. What is the value addition that we do. Though performance appraisal report is still not part of the cost audit mechanism, no one stops us from giving that. Correct? So let's make it a practice that we start giving it to the management on a voluntary basis. At least some 2-3 major factors of analysis. May not be a detailed report. Again, an update from the institute side that we have already made many representations to the MCA about the inclusion of performance appraisal report once again. We have actually given them one format also that what can be the topics that can be included. Now, in principle, the MCA secretary, now the secretary had changed, unfortunately for us, but the old secretary, he has approved in principle that it should have been part of the cost audit mechanism, the PAR should be reintroduced. So with the COVID, again, there is a gap of 4 months. The new MCA secretary has come. So we will again will represent it, but we are definitely behind this job to get PAR reintroduced. Right? So presentation to the management is again one critical factor. With this, I have covered the major areas of the cost audit process, the practical approach. So now I will be going into briefly the cost audit in ERP environment, and I will be speaking mainly about SAP because I personally have experience in SAP. My major chunk of experience in ERP domain is in SAP. I of course have knowledge of Oracle as JD also, but that is not that thorough. So I cannot speak with authority on any other ERP on this large forum. So I've chosen to concentrate my deliberations to the SAP ERP system. But logically speaking, if you have worked on various ERPs, you will understand that the basic logic of the ERPs remain the same. I am dealing with SAP specifically on another reason also, because in India, if you see the market of ERP environment or market of ERPs, SAP contributes to around 70 to 80% of branded ERP market in India. So for us, SAP is a critical factor, or majority of the companies are using it. So implementation of CO module, whether the company has actually implemented CO module, yes or no, and the level of implementation of CO is critical. If the company does not have CO module, then you cannot have anything relevant to cost audit, which is significant from ERP. Okay, if company is only operating FI, then that's fine. We'll get the P&L balance sheet, cost audit you have to do manually only. So first of all, you need to understand whether CO module is there or not. If the company is having CO module, then you have to assess that at what maturity level that CO module is. So you have to go through cost center hierarchy, as we call it. That is the structure of definition of cost center. As I already mentioned that I will not be going into details of this topic because this is a separate topic for deliberation in itself. Cost center hierarchy, primary postings, these are the topics in themselves that will require a huge time for deliberation. But I am just throwing you a concept and the basic information which you can take back. So cost center hierarchy is the structure in which the cost centers are defined. So cost centers are defined at which level that you should be aware of, and whether that is appropriate, that you should assess. Whether it is at department level, at machine level, only one cost center for company as a whole, there are various models. Primary posting. Now, primary posting is nothing but a voucher. If a company has implemented CO module, for posting any voucher, mentioning of cost center is a mandatory. Correct? So primary posting has to happen with a cost center. So that is what SAP provides, which is the best feature. That you cannot post any voucher without entering the cost center. So 100% of your trial balance is linked to some cost center or the other. Correct? So use of primary posting at cost center. So you will at least have primary allocation. I have all studied the allocation method, the primary and the secondary one. So primary allocation is always available in this. Now the question is whether the cost center is entered correctly or not. That you have to do on a test check basis physically.
Microphone
Assessment and distribution cycle is nothing but the secondary allocation that we have studied in theory.
Madam,
So whether the company is using the secondary allocation method as an automated method through SAP. So assessment and distribution are the two terms that are used by SAP simply to denote allocation cycle. So whether there is an allocation cycle of secondary allocation, you need to understand whether it is used, how it is used, what is the basis of allocation. That all you need to go through. So assessment cycle is another major area that you need to look into, which will help you. Use of secondary allocation is similar to the allocation cycle. Definition of activity rates and calculation of activity rates. Now again, activity rate is a SAP terminology. It relates to the machine hour rate or labor hour rate. So if we are having 10 machines, in practice what we do, we calculate 10 different rates for each machine. There will be a machine hour rate. In SAP terminology, it is called as activity rate. So how many activity rates or how many machine hour rates? Whether the machine hour rate is defined for a group of machines, for an individual machine, for an entire shop as a one rate, that you need to check that what is the setup in the SAP system and who is calculating the machine hour rates or activity rates. What's the frequency? Whether the machine hour rates are calculated when SAP was implemented, I can share my experience that there are other companies who had never bothered to change the activity rate for 10 years. So whatever is coming out of SAP is complete garbage. If you are not updating your activity rate on a frequent basis, then your entire SAP CO module is of no use. Neither is your inventory valuation that is coming out of it. So you need to focus on these parts, that definition of activity rates, updation, what is the logic of calculation of this activity rate. As I already mentioned, BOM and routing in SAP. Again, to what frequency they are updated. If there is a design change, there has to be a corresponding change in bill of material. So whether that has been flowing to the bill of material in a timely manner. So what is that process? What is the latest bill of material updates? So you actually need to go to the technical department, generally the engineering department. Ask them that what is the latest engineering change that you have done. Go and check that whether the BOM is updated with that change. If you find that it is there, then the company has some processes. So you need to do these things on a physical, on a practical level when you are handling any audit through SAP environment. Costing run again is a process in SAP which defines or which affects the inventory valuation. Correct. So when I'm doing costing run and release, SAP automatically calculates cost of production of the product based off the BOM, routing, standard activity rates, and it updates actually the stock valuation. So you need to be very thorough that what is the costing run process, whether it has been released or not. There are many companies who do costing run, don't release it. So inventory valuation is not actually updated through SAP. They will download the data in Excel, then they will do all the jugglery in Excel, and they will upload some figure of stock valuation. So you need to be aware of all these things. The record is available in SAP. If a costing run is released, you will find that there is a record that is available. If it is not released, it will show that it's a manually entered price. It is not a system calculated price. So you should be aware of this when you are doing the cost audit in ERP environment. Inventory valuation I already explained related to costing run. Over under absorptions of overhead. Correct. So at cost center level in SAP, you will have costs that are coming in. And when we are doing the costing run or when we are booking the production, there is a recovery that is posted against the cost center. I will not go into technical details of it, but over under absorption reports at cost center are available in SAP. So we should be going through that. Now, I would rather focus my discussion on the reports that are important when you are handling cost audit through SAP. So there are some standard reports, okay, in SAP. Then there are some Z reports. Now Z reports are nothing but customized reports that are prepared by the company. Now SAP does not take any ownership of accuracy of data of Z reports. So company is using too many Z reports, then you really have to test the Z reports first. If the company is using standard reports or you are using standard reports to spool some data, then you can rely, because the standard reports are very robust, very stable as far as SAP environment goes. They are very, very well proven reports. But Z reports is something like companies customizing their own reports. So you can query whatever, but report will do something else also. Correct? So Z reports, if you have been given by the company data, taken from Z report, to either cross check it with some standard SAP report, or you go into actually programming and coding logic of the Z report at least once with your client. Before that, don't accept the data of Z reports on your space. Then CO team to have cross-functional authorization for the reports. Cost center groups, cost element groups, these are the reports that we generally require. Objective of the report, what you should find is that fault finding, troubleshooting, transaction reporting, MIS, and auditing by external agencies. These are some of the objectives of why these various reports are done. Now, these are the names of some of the reports. This is just for your information that if you are into SAP environment, these are some of the critical master data that you will require to access. And these are the first 4 letters. Now, KSH3 is what we call as transaction code or report name in SAP. So if you run report KSH3, you will get a list of cost centers, cost center groups. KAH3 cost element group, that is the GL account grouping. KH3 will give you GL account groups. KS13 will give you cost center master page. K23 cost element, like that. So these are just some names which you can refer to, or you should keep in your mind that these are the reports that you should be focusing on. Then these are some of the reports from other modules other than CO that to my mind are relevant for cost audit process. One is work center list. Now work center is nothing but list of machines. So how many machines are defined in system? So there can be 10 machines, but all 10 are defined as a single group of machines. But what is that list that is there in SAP system? Because on that list only the entire production costing of SAP work, list of work center, then reports on bill of material. So you can actually download BOM and test check whether that BOM you feel is appropriate or not. You can download routing. Correct. So there are reports on BOM, there are reports on routing. So these are some of the reports that are standard reports, very reliable. So if you have access to say CA03 display routing, you can view routing of any of the product that is there in the system. Then these are some of the important reports in SAP CO mode. Now this S underscore ALR 870136111 is the name of the report. Correct? So these are some of the important reports. They relate to, like say, second report relates to GL cost center wise report. The third report relates to cost center wise activity type quantity. SKF is nothing but the basis of allocation. So as we discussed about the automatic allocation of cost, the secondary allocation. Now that secondary allocation is happening on some basis. Now, what is that basis? What is the value of that basis is available from this report. So these are some of the reports that are available in SAP which can be used as a standard. These are some more of those reports. So you can just have a look at it. So in this, what I have done, I have tried to compile a list of reports, which are standard reports in SAP, which are frequently used or which can be used by the cost auditors while conducting cost audit. So if you have access to these reports, you can have access to all kind of record that is usable to the cost auditors from SAP system. Then generally, if I am handling an assignment, I would request the client to get some Z reports developed if they already have not got it done. So these are the reports which are not available in SAP as standard, but they should be recommended. One is list report giving breakup of cost components. So actually SAP has a system at backend table level. If SAP is calculating standard cost, actually cost sheet is getting built up in SAP. But that standard report, which is easily readable, is not available in SAP. So you should insist upon at least having a table access to download that data or developing that. Second is list report giving average sales price versus standard cost at a particular date. So this is again not a standard report. Now sales price on every date is available in the table. Standard cost on every date is available on the table. Correlating both in a single report is not available as a standard report. So you need to insist to the company that at least they can pool data and give it to you, or as an advice, you can give them as a suggestion to develop this report, because this will be a very useful report for the management also on a continuous basis, so that on a every day they can have what is the live average sales price and average cost, and to that effect profit also. Then MAP on a particular date. MAP refers to moving average price of raw material. The problem is if you are doing audit right now, if you are doing audit today of a company which year ended on 31st March 2020, you require stock valuation on 31st March 20, or you require a MAP of that product at that point in time. Right? Today, if you go, none of the standard reports will be able to give you MAP of 31st March. Whatever MAP you will get of item will be of this day, because that's a moving average price. But SAP table stores every day's moving average price also. So if you really access the table, you can get this MAP as on whatever date you want. So that report you need to access, or that table you need to access and form a Z report. Then report giving actual cost versus standard cost. Again, SAP has actual cost, SAP has standard cost. There is a report on actual cost, there is a report on standard cost. There is no report which gives actual and standard cost in front of you. So this report needs to be developed. So these are some of the reports that you can suggest to the management. So with this, I have covered broadly how you can handle an assignment in ERP environment. Now, just a few points on impact of Ind AS that we need to keep in mind. Impact of revaluation of costing on costing, considering principle of normality. So basic Ind AS, the basic principal change in the concept is revaluation of asset. So if you are going to revalue asset every year, what impact it's going to have on the depreciation, on the finance charge, and what should be its treatment in cost. Considering the costing works on principle of normality, so every year you cannot keep on changing your costing because you're revalued asset. So what is to be done in this case? That is a question that the institute is also trying to find an answer to, as I already explained. Treatment of unwinding of cost, whether it should be clubbed under finance cost, should go back to individual element, because if you understand the Ind AS reporting structure, unwinding cost of a particular cost element forms part of your finance cost. So if it unwinding of employee cost, say future employee benefits, it will be part of finance cost. But whether you should take it back to employee cost, or it should be reported in finance cost, or it should be a required item, that's the question. Treatment of discontinued operations, again. On the face of it, the profit of loss or discontinued operation comes as a single line item. But we have to go into the notes of the Ind AS disclosures, where the details of P&L of discontinued operation is also given. Because in costing, we cannot take it as a single line item, because it has correlation with the production quantities also. So if we are going to consider the entire thing, till the time the business was not classified as discontinued operation, the entire business operation we have to take. So discontinued operation is a critical line item. Treatment of deemed finance and operating. So this has become very critical issue. The deemed finance or operating needs. Deemed finance is or deemed operating needs. Its treatment of revenue, its treatment on expenses. So this is the very critical factor that we need to consider. As I already explained, Institute is in a process of coming out with some kind of guideline on these treatments. If you go through the FAQs that are answered by the technical cell, which are available, some of these questions are answered there by way of technical cell answers, because these issues were brought to us by some of the very big PSUs who are having problems, and we have answered them. So you can refer to the FAQs.
Hello.
Now, some of the recent developments in the process of the cost audit mechanism per se. First is amendment to the director's report. We all know that last year there has been an introduction or the change in the director's report rules, where now the directors have to specify whether the record maintenance was mandatory, whether they have done it as per section 148, whether the audit was applicable where they have done it or not. Earlier, this requirement was there only in Caro, correct? So the responsibility of directors was limited. Now the responsibility of directors has increased because now they are making an assertive statement whether it is applicable and whether we are doing it as required by the law. And that is a very welcome change. We have already issued a complete guidance note on this particular topic. I request all of you that you have already not gone through the guidance note, please go through that guidance. It gives very wonderfully the provisions, how the record is to be maintained, some additional formats that will help you maintain the record, and everything is explained. Then reporting based on CTA UOM. This is the change that was brought in last year by the MCA. When MCA has mandated us to use the unit of measure that is mentioned in the particular
Sorry to interrupt. And it
the
conclude.
logic behind now MC, now we all know that there are problems in implementing this, correct? Whatever unit is given in CTA may not be actually followed by the industry. We have already represented this to the MCA, and MCA has told us that we accept, but we had to make a beginning somewhere. So they appreciate our concerns, and they have said that okay, institute shall come out with some kind of a analysis saying that CTA unit of measure X, industry practice Y, and you give us a list. We will think it over, and if required, we will notify. But the logic behind this is to give something back to the industry. Last year, for the first time, MCA, first time in the history of cost audit mechanism, I should say, the MCA has come out with a very wonderful report which gives average cost of production in every industry which is covered under cost audit report. Now, when I say every industry, it relates to all those industries where common unit of measure information was available through our own e-filings. So this report has become a very, very useful report, say for cement industry. Now you have a data available in public domain that what's the average cost of production for India as a whole for cement. Who are the top five players? Who are the bottom five players? Not without the names, but for benchmarking purpose that can be used. And that was precisely our demand. We have been representing this to MCA for past many years that to come out with some report that will help the industry as outcome of the cost audit report. That report should be in the public domain. You don't give names, and that is precisely what MCA has done. And that's the reason why they want common unit of measure, so that more and more industries can be covered under this report. So I appeal that we all should take this positively. If there are any concerns, please inform council that this is the CTA under, this is the UM under CTA, but industry practice is this, and we will definitely take it to the MC, and they are very open on making that change. GST and related changes in the rules, I will not focus on it because it's already been quite, we are now have hands on, and rather than me, you have among yourself only your very own Niranjan Bhai, who is an authority and also chairing the indirect tax committee. So it would not be my place to explain this when he is there. CS4 again, we are working with, of course, I am just now coordinating kind of those efforts, but those efforts started in the last council. Again, under Niranjan Bhai was the chairman. So they had already made some representations to the government of for reintroduction of CS4 kind of a system. Because as far as my experience goes, many of my clients are still continuing with taking CS4 because they are apprehensive that though the GST Act allows you to have any kind of transfer value for inter-unit transfer, when the auditing of the GST records will start, whether the government will accept the transfer value without any backup paper. And that's precisely what our point was, or that precisely was the point raised by Niranjan sir, Amit Apte sir at that point in time. And they had already given many representations to the GST Council. And I'm sure he's already working on it, so that it's a work in progress. But sometime, hopefully, we'll get the cash flow back. Then there are cases which are filed by MCA for non-filing of cost audit report in time. Again, I feel that this is a welcome step because this brings some kind of a discipline in the mechanism. Now, the cases are filed only after expiration of 275 days after 180 days. So, the companies which are really not bothering to complete the cost audit or not giving any response to the auditor, the MCA started filing cases against them, so that at least some kind of discipline will come into play. So, this is these are the things. Scope of cost audit assignment reply to the tenders I already covered when I mentioned about prohibited services list, so I will not go into that. And now lastly, the 3 advisories that the institutes have issued. I will not go into details of each of these advisories because that is again a separate topic altogether. So I would just touch upon what these advisories cover. So first advisory, of course, issued by CASB, that's my board, regarding the treatment of COVID related costs in the cost statement. But I would like to stress upon only one thing in this, that this particular advisory relates to year 1920 only. We understand that post 20, that in the lockdown unlock phase, there may have to be some different consideration to the cost.
Other speakers are
And
there.
we are in the process of designing that guideline or designing that advisory also. So this advisory relates only to the period of maybe 10 days, 12 days when the lockdown is in process. That is year 1920. So that advisory is short and crisp. The better advisory, a more detailed one, will soon come. The second advisory was issued by the cost accounting, cost auditing and assurance standard board by CMA Dr. Ashish Datte, relating to how to handle cost audit and assurance assignment during the period of lockdown, considering the restrictions on travel. I would again repeat that the important point that you should note in this advisory is this advisory relates only if there are travel restrictions and you are not able to visit. We as a council have taken firm stand that we don't subscribe to the view that audit process can permanently be handled in an offline mode. It can never be done that. Auditor has to visit the audit to get the right kind of assurances. Correct? This is an exceptional circumstance for which the advisory has been issued. This cannot be taken up by the companies or the auditing fraternity also, that henceforth auditing will always be done in online mode. That is a norm. No, that cannot be the norm. The real kind of assurance that is required in an audit process, the real kind of checking that is required in an audit process cannot happen online. It simply cannot. You cannot visit factory online. As a cost auditor, it is paramount duty of yours to visit the operation line, understand whether there are changes in the operation cycle, in the operation process, because that's going to affect your costing. If a new assembly line is installed in the shop and you don't visit the shop physically, how you would know that it has affected your costing? So this advisory particularly for a limited purpose and limited time frame. And third advisory, of course, is a supporting of the second advisory, which is the latest one by the technical say, specifying some model disclosures. Now, since all of us are going to handle many of these audit through online mode, there has to be some disclosures made. So we were receiving queries from the members that what kind of disclosures can be given. So what we have done is we have come out with some kind of model disclosure. These are not binding again. This is an advisory giving model disclosure. So whatever disclosures you feel are relevant to you, you take them, you make modifications as per your requirement. But we have tried to cover the majority of the areas and try to give you a ready sample on which you can base your disclosures to. And again, we have framed them in such a way that they can be used for any audit. They are not restricted to cost audit. We have not mentioned anywhere that we are using it only for cost. So for any audit, any assurance service that you are providing, these disclaimers will help. So these are the 3 recent advisories that the institute has issued. With this, I think I've come to end of my deliberations, and I hand it over to the panel again. I thank you all for giving me time to express my views. I don't know about how the question answer session would work, but if there are any questions, I'm here to answer them, or you can send it to me on my email or call me also. My contact details are there on the institute website also. So you can give me a call, write me mail anytime of the day that you have any issues relating to the entire mechanism of cost audit costing, or for that matter, anything related to the institute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi. Are you getting me? Thank you, Mr. Joshi. Myself, A. Acharya. I am chairman of Talcher chapter under EIRC. It's nice to listen to you and a very rich topic you have elaborated. In fact, some of my suggestions which I wanted to give that you have already answered to that. Very nice presentation. We are very much grateful to you, even though you are of the same profession, of the same family. Such a knowledge sharing was essential, and you have made this morning and afternoon a nice one. One or two things as chairman of the cost accounting board, and I would expect something as a professional. Find out some ways how to convince the government that cost records and cost audit are mandatorily required for the better health of the business. Number two, as professional, as a matter of compliance, should make our computation very simple. It's accessible to the business. Otherwise, they are going to accept it. And today, customer is the king. Business now, when the business is in a depression mode, they are in a mode of thinking how to revive my business. They are not comfortable with the compliance part. Whether income tax due is there, GST due is there, they are listening to that. Friends, those who are in business, they don't simply the GST compliance. Go to court, it can linger. But now they are thinking how to revive the business. So we have to come forward how to revive the business. And this CEO model really very 2 years back. This CEO model, it works very fantastically for day-to-day cost control. And for that purpose, we have to make the cost bifurcation to controllable and uncontrollable. Avoidable and unavoidable. Then only we can do something. Thank you, Mr. Joshi.
रिमूव करो, रिमूव करो। ठीक है। आप तो बोल रहा हूँ। अभी ठीक है। ठीक, ठीक।
We'll be listening to Mr. Mukhopadhyay, and after that we'll be listening to vibrant cost accountant, and in practice also Mr. Niranjan Mishra is the Central Council member. Really dedicatedly working for the profession. We'll be listening to both of them. Welcome, Mr. Mukhopadhyay. You getting me, sir?
Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. We welcome you, sir. We are eagerly waiting for your address to us. Myself, Acharya, we met long back when you were the chairman of ARC. Do you remember, sir?
Thank you, sir, for remembering me.
This is Acharya. Please.
Starting a minute. Yeah. So should I start? Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. We can
Should
hear
we
you.
start?
Yes, can we start?
Good afternoon, formally good afternoon, distinguished personalities from the Institute of Cost and Accountants of India, CMA, Mr. Niranjan Misra, Central Council members who has invited me for this, and Bhubaneswar chapter and the other co-chapters. Just my previous speaker, Mr. Niroj, CMA Niroj Dhananjay Joshi, Central Council members and Chairman CASB, and Chairman of ICI WIRC, and other distinguished guests. Enthusiastic organizers of this webinar on intricacies on cost records and cost audits, ladies and gentlemen attending this webinar. I'm supposed to talk on cost audit under industry perspective and expectations from cost audit. I think the industry perspectives from the cost audit, I would like to project before you. I think in view of the recent pandemic and the unusual situations under which the industry is undergoing, the expectations will be very large. Cost audit, as perceived by me, is representing the verification of cost accounts and check on adherence of the cost accounting plan. It ascertains the accuracy of the cost accounting records to ensure that they are in conformity with the cost accounting principles, plans, procedures, and objectives. Cost audit is also an audit of efficiency of minute details of expenditure while the work is in progress and not a post-mortem examination. It is mainly a preventive measures, a guide for management policy and decision, in addition to being a barometer of performance. This is what is the perception industry has from the cost audit. Now, going to the history, in early 1925, Government of India gave contracts on cost plus mechanism to firms and started verifying the cost structure of such firms. ICW Institute was set up in 1944 and its statutory recognition was in 1959, marked the beginning of the profession of the cost audit. To assess the productivity of the industries, which had a direct bearing on the supply chain management, system for the growth of Indian economy, and provision for maintaining cost accounting records under Section 2091D of the then Companies Act 1956 was introduced. Parliamentary debates were held for incorporating the above mentioned amendments and emphasizing on the cost audits. Statutory cost audit is a system of cost audit which is introduced by Government of India for the review, examination and appraisal of the cost accounting record and added information required to be maintained by specified industries. It was statutorily introduced under the provisions of the Companies Act 1956 with effect from October 65. Meeting the government requirements for regulating the price mechanism in core industries such as cement, sugar, textiles, and consumer industries such as Bonaspati formulations. This was to protect consumers from unwarranted increase in the prices. This is the primary objectives.
Again.
India is the only country which has introduced statutory cost audit to regulate about 45 vital industries. The moot point here is that when the cost audit was introduced and the current situation is different, it was in a regulated market, today is the market economy. Being sitting in the chair of many boards, what I would say, the expectation from the cost audit is different. There is also a lot of deliberations whether cost audit is required in the current market economy or not. That is the impression of many people. Personally, as a CMA, and has also been in industry for 37 years, I feel that the cost audit has enormous benefits. It ensures reliable data for pricing decisions, enables competitive operational efficiency of divisions, facilitates
Hello.
Identifying profitability for various lines of business extremely important.
Press
It cannot be for the overall company.
press
Was efficiency, performance, and proprietary. It optimizes utilization of resources like material, labor, machinery. Also identifies products being sold below cost to ward off competition. I think to basically do a pricing norm where when it is a penetration pricing or when it is a skimming pricing, management can apply the cost audit tabulations in a very important way. Tariff Commission also relies on the authenticity of the cost audit for fixation of tariffs. It is useful in valuation of inventory and work in progress. Its system of standard costing also is great. It aids business decisions like make or buy, helps in pointing out inefficiencies in production process, thereby reducing costs. Financial auditors can also rely on various cost accounting data verified in the cost audit. So to take these imperatives, what the industries need, industries need to set up a cost reboot, structural cost reduction to reduce break-even point, effective business partnering with current imperatives cost, whether the historical cost give us a perspective of the futuristic cost. What the industry looks at is cost information is a part of the strategy blueprint. My answer is yes, it can. And the current packaging, what has happened, if properly applied to, can give you a roadmap of your product line wise profitability, get into the actionable areas where we should pinpoint the actions. But it is critical for CMAs to scan and help the organizations to recognize opportunities. 2 days back, I had another webinar on a different concept of restart and rebound after COVID-19 and boarding a new flight of cost management. I told there, and I'm telling here also. In the modern day cost framework, a product does cost, a product could cost, and product should cost. What the cost audit implies, it does cost with transparency. What the industry expects is whether the CMAs or the consultants or in the industry should transform the imperatives of the does costs into could cost and should cost. That is a futuristic view of costing and can enable industries to have a strategic blueprint. Variable cost modeling for driving today is very essential, and cost audit imperatives can help in a big way. I'm telling you, business modeling has totally changed. If you talk of fleet management system, which is being operated by various state transport units, you are quite aware of that electric vehicles pan-India is under that kind of contract. What is its mechanism? The mechanism is the STU doesn't buy the bus. The STU doesn't spend for fuel. The STU doesn't engage a driver. The STU doesn't engage a contractor. What STU pays, and STU doesn't maintain the buses. What the STU pays is per passenger kilometer fare on a normalized run rate. It is nothing but a view of the operating costing which we have learned. So I think that my appeal to the institute as well as to the various practicing members, that business models are getting changed. At the same time, our mindset change has to be there. How to get into the business model. The industry has still to be profitable. Industry has still to accept the contract. Industry has still to recognize revenue in spite of the presence of IFRS. And we cannot say that this model is not acceptable. So I think the current packaging of the cost audit is good. It can give, if it's properly used, it can give good imperative.
ସେ କର୍ଣ୍ଣାଟକ TV
But
ପରିବେଶ
how
କହିବା
it
ଆଗେ
should
ଶୁଣନ୍ତୁ ଆପଣଙ୍କ
go
ଭଏସ ଅନ୍
as a
କରିଦେବେ
strategy
ନା ମୁଁ
is
କର୍ଣ୍ଣ
most
ସେ ଆପଣଙ୍କ
important.
ଭଏସ ଶୁଭିଲା ନା ଭଏସ ଶୁଭିଲା ଭିଡିଓ ଆସିଲା
ହଁ ହଁ
So I talked of scalability, cost baseline, which will help in predicting profit margin to business cycles and seasons.
ମତେ କଣ ଇଏ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ କି ୟାଙ୍କୁ
And we need to
ପରେ
also
କହିବି ନା କଣ
ନା ନା ଆପଣ ନା ଆପଣ କିଛି ଶକ୍ତିଶାଳୀ
think of reimagining and
କହିବେ କହିବା
reform.
ହଁ
The
ମାନେ
entire
new
industry
address ଟା
will be doing the
ହଁ
is in the journey of transformation,
ଭଲ ହେଲା କି ଯାହା ଟେକ୍ନିକାଲ ଇସ୍ୟୁ ହଉଛି ତା ପାଇଁ
structurizing the cost in line with reality, drive action to release large cost pools.
ଟାଇମ କରୁଛେ
CMS need to play a crucial role to navigate the journey.
it is a new issue for all
Another
ଆଉ
area where
dignitaries ପାଇଁ କିଛି କହିବା ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ ତ
to be there
ହଁ
is a design related cost and its application,
ହୁଁ
not simply by the way of depreciation and amortization,
ହଉ ମୁଁ
but
ଟିକେ
to say
କହିଦେବି ଅଳ୍ପ କହିଦେବି
how the design to cost and design to cost cash can be a philosophy for the industry to minimize the same. So design to value cost needs to be studied. Zero basing the indirect costs need to happen. I don't think the current structure has already addressed that, but every structure is under evolutions, and the council members and honorable institute has been revising the thing, doing the appeals in different ways. Otherwise also, if you can, the CMS can prove their credibility through cross audit, the industries can engage themselves. Now I'm going out a very live example in the company in which I've been working. In automobile, it's a different journey. In some years, cost audit was mandatory. Some years it is not mandatory. Some years it is mandatory for some of the part of the SETA. 1976, we have the first appointment of cost auditors. 1976 to 1993, out of 18 years, we have statutory audit for 6 years and voluntary audit for 12 years. This is the most important thing. If the industry appreciates that this cost audit is important, whether it is by the statute or not, it will do. 1994 to 1911, statutory audit was conducted for 18 years. 2012 to 2014, statutory audit was conducted for 3 years for vehicles, steel and spare parts. And 2015 to 2020, currently we are covered only for armored vehicles, steel and spare parts, but we are doing the voluntary audit for all the vehicles. That means if the industry appreciates that there is a value proposition in the cost audit, and cost audit through its transparency in the cost structure can show us the path, can show us the intricacies, things will happen. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the situation either to follow up or fold up. We will follow up. Business as usual or bow is not an option, and we need to focus on business partnering in a big way. So it's a time to relearn how to learn and improve on skills at business partner. Build a good cost governance structure supported by a leadership team for the industry can give a lot of boost for the cost audit. There's a lot of benefits of cost audit. In the history, when I was also in the regional council, cost audit was abolished. Way back in 95 to 98, this period, we tried hard to restore it. Many things have happened. But I think industry appreciates its credibility. It depends on industry to industry. The institute should showcase that in a big way. And over the passage of time, we must appreciate that cost information need to form part of the strategy blueprint, and the current business models should conform to the structure in which it suggests. Criticality will be there. Reimagining the cost structure will be there. We cannot compromise the values, the value propositions, but I think the cost audit imperatives will throw the guidelines of how to do and how to bring out the cost structure for to support the decision making process. With this, I will end my brief speech. I'm subjected to any questions. Thank you very much. I've just scanned the chat box. Not any significant question which has happened. I'll just see again. I'm happy that many of the distinguished participants has appreciated the imperatives. I'm thankful to them.
Hello,
Yes, please.
sir. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
Sir, myself Shaktidhar Singh, Chairman, ICAI Bhubaneswar, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you have completed your presentation, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for nice deliberation. A very good afternoon, all of you. Myself, CMA Shaktidhar Singh, Chairman, ICAI Bhubaneswar chapter. Take the opportunity to welcome you all to the today's webinar on intricacy of cost records and cost audit. Respected resource person, CMA Niranjan Dhananjay Joshi sir, Council Member and Chairman, Cost Accounting Standard Board, ICAI, Chairman ICAI IIRC, and CMA Asim Mukherjee sir, VP and Head Business Finance Tata Motors Limited, Mumbai. And our special guest on the occasion, CMA Niranjan Mishra sir, Council Member and Chairman Indirect Taxation Committee, Chairman of other chapters of Odisha, respected senior members, past chairman of chapter and EIRC, esteemed members of Bhubaneswar and other chapters of Odisha, my professional colleagues in managing committee, CMA Mukesh Chube, vice chairman and chairman PD committee, CMA Himoj Mishra, secretary. Due to pandemic coronavirus, our lifestyle is badly affected and we are facing lots of challenges. Considering the need of our members in industry and practice, and need of the day due to pandemic coronavirus, Bhubaneswar chapter has taken such initiative to conduct the program through digital platform, first time in Pan Odisha. This is the second program in digital mode, so there may be some technical problem. I request all of you to bear with us. We will continue more program in future through digital platform. I, on behalf of ICAI Bhubaneswar chapter, express my hearty thanks and deep gratitude to all the eminent guests on the occasion for accepting our invitation. This is the last program as chairman of this vibrant chapter. I heartily thank all of you for your wholehearted support and cooperation. Thanks for night's participation. Now request any chairman of other chapter, please share his views in few words. Hello. Anyone connected?
Hello.
CMA Prasad Kumar Pani, Chairman
Hello.
South
Am I
Odisha
audible?
chapter. हाँ, please share.
Yes, okay.
Okay, audible.
Good afternoon to everybody. Myself Prashant Kumar Bani, Chairman South Odisha. Today we have eminent dignitaries, CMA Asim Kumar Mukhopadhyay sir, CMA Niranjan Dhananjay Joshi sir, and CMA Niranjana Mishra sir. So no doubt this session must be an effective and meaningful one. We may have to live with COVID-19 for months or years. When we are in lockdown and shutdown, and the social distancing is the only remedy to remain away from such pandemic, the program hosted by our Bhubaneswar chapter and co-hosted by other chapters of Odisha is quite appreciable. I personally appreciate the contribution of CMS Shaktidhar Singh, Chairman Bhubaneswar chapter, and their team also for organizing such a program. I also appreciated the contribution of CMA Antarjami Acharya sir, Chairman Talcher Onwood chapter, CMA Lalit Kumar Mishra sir, CJK chapter, CMA Khirochandra Nanda, Chairman Sambalpur chapter, and CM Praveen Nigam, Chairman Raulkela chapter to this program. As it is the first time we are conducting through social platform, we are facing some technical problem. Hope all the participants will bear the same and it will be rectified in the next program. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant Kumar Pani, Chairman South Odisha chapter. Any other chairman connected in this platform?
Hello.
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 Hello. Hello. Thank you once again, all of you. Actually, it is not connected to any other chairman. Now I request CMA Khirod Nando sir, Chairman ICA Bhubaneswar chapter.
Sambalpur chapter. Are you able to hear?
Yeah. Sir, please share his view, sir.
Actually, the program first time it is very organized. Actually, Mukesh. अच्छा sir, I am continuing.
Hello,
Sorry for inconvenience.
many thanks to all of you, to the host for this webinar program organized by Bhubaneswar chapter, and with their best effort they could manage it. And from my side, again I am giving thanks to all the delegates, attendees, those who are attending the program in webinar manner. I on behalf of Sambalpur chapter also, I am giving a lot of thanks to all of you, and we need such type of program in future, so that all the members, all the delegates will be getting benefits out of that. No doubt, you will be attend or you may not be, but still then it is the best effort given by the Bhubaneswar chapter. I am requesting them for organizing such type of web meet in future for the benefit of all the CMA members, all across the group, as well as all across in our state. Thank you once again. Thank you once again.
Thank you, CMA Khiroj Chandra Nanda sir, Chairman ICAI Bhubaneswar chapter. I, on behalf of ICAI Bhubaneswar chapter, extend hearty thanks to all the participants and the dignitaries, resource person, CMA Niraj Dhananjay Joshi sir, Council Member and Chairman Costa County Standard Board, ICAI, CMA Asim Mukherjee sir, VP and Head Business Finance, Tata Motors Limited, for their kind deliberation and acceptance of our invitation. My hearty thanks to all the chairmen of other chapters for their coordination and support. Thanks to all. Jai Jagannath.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sukhdev.
Thank you. Now we conclude this webinar.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Nice. Again we'll meet again.
Thank you.